Hi, welcome to the 26th AGM of your company, CL Educate. It always gives me an immense amount of joy to be coming here and addressing you on behalf of the entire organization and as the chairman of the board. The place that I would like to start today's conversation is by referring to one very important parameter that you must be logging into as a shareholder of CL Educate. From the last AGM to this AGM, the value of your enterprise has grown by 3x. From AGM 2020 to this AGM, we have grown by a multiple of 7 times. And I would want all of us to believe what we believe in, that this is just the beginning of a 100x story. And I will share our collective thoughts on behalf of the entire company and the board over the next 20 minutes. Before I get into the session, I would want to bring our attention to a very important aspect of business building, institution building, by relating a small story, a short story. I use this very often with our students when I am teaching, or even with our employees when we are doing workshops. The story goes like this. There is this gentleman, coated and suited and booted. He's taking a stroll during his lunch break after a meal, and he goes past a construction site and he sees 2 laborers picking up loads of bricks and carrying it from ground floor and putting it on the first floor and coming back and doing this in tandem. The suited booted man pauses there and asks a question. Bhai, kya kar rahe ho? What are you guys doing? It's sultry, warm, hot, oppressive working conditions. The first laborer says, or he responds with almost a rebuke kind of a response. But can't you see? We are building walls to at this construction site and helping to build a building. He moves to the next laborer and waits to hear his feedback, and that guy says, we are building a temple. That's the attitude of piety that one brings or one does not bring. So one is called as a brick wall syndrome and the other is called as a temple perspective. As I'm sitting here in my position as the chairman of the company, addressing to all of us who are co-owners of this company, I want all of us to know and believe that I and all of us together, we bring the perspective of piety, the temple perspective in building CL Educate as a company that's going to last long enough to stay much beyond all of us. Without that, we will never be able to deal with the storms, the challenges that entrepreneurship always brings in. So with those opening remarks, I get into the session. Thank you for your indulgence. And I'm going to structurally break my conversation into 2 parts. In the first one, I will share our perspective, which is outside in, macros, policies, industry, on both the edtech as well as the martech side. And then in the part 2, I will share in brief our growth engines, our targets, the way we look at our execution plan. Okay, let me move forward. Let me come to quickly covering the macro perspective, which I would want to assume that all of us are fairly familiar with. Maybe you are even more logged into it if you're a seasoned investor than I am, but allow me to share some thoughts which might have a little bit of a underlying layer which is relevant to edtech or martech, which is career launcher or keystone. Number 1, India has overtaken Great Britain, India, China, US are going to be the nations of major reckoning for the next 25 years. And as I sit here, while I'm mindful of what we need to deliver on a Q-on-Q basis, year-on-year basis, in the initial part, I would want to say that we need to look at perspective in multiples of 5 years. And India is on a roll, all of us are aware of this. Education is the second most important thing. The moment you think of economy as the number one most important thing, prosperity, purchasing power, household incomes, if that's number one, all of us also know that it is an outcome of a very strong foundation, which is education. That's the enabler. So you and I own a company that is the fundamental building block of a nation called India. And we are not at all humoring ourselves when we are saying this. I'll give you certain pieces of statistics. In 2030, 20% of the global workforce anywhere in the world at a sigma level are going to be Indians. It is estimated that 20% of the Fortune 500 company CEOs and CXOs are going to be of Indian origin, where they have had their early education, ethnicity, higher education. It could even be a citizen from a Bangladesh or Nigeria, but he could have had a part of his education in India. That's number two. Number three, 20% of the leaders in either politics or policy making in the most mattered G20 countries are going to be Indians. You can see it already, whether it's in UN or IMF or an example like a Rishi Sunak or a Kamala in US. We are seeing all of it already as evidences. Now, this actually puts a very important persuasive argument to a lot of things that we are going to talk about today or even in the future in the context of CL Educate. Let me move forward and talk a little bit about the Indian education policy and industry. All of you are aware that the National Education Policy 2020 was approved, adopted, and between 2020 and 2022, whole lot of reforms are getting visible on the ground in multiple ways. For example, the creation of a common universities entrance test, which started off for only the central universities, but expanded to become a common universities entrance test, has gained momentum under the now reasonably well-known name called CUET over the last 12 months. This is just the starting point. India is likely to emerge as a higher education hub over the next 5 to 10 years. What would that mean? That would mean that the top 800 universities, the top 100 mega campuses such as IITs, IIMs, NLUs, all of those are going to emerge as mega campuses where each campus is going to house between 40,000 to 100,000 students from the current peak capacity of, let's say, 15,000 students. Some of them even have only 5,000 students. This is going to be one of the big enablers of India emerging as a higher education hub for students globally. As we think about CL Educate as a test prep and career enabling company, it's very important to keep this in mind. It is of interest to us also to know that building a mega campus with a 40,000 or a 50,000 or 80,000 student capacity is not possible unless you have broad-based undergraduate programs in each and every campus. That would cover economics, management, political science, design, entrepreneurship, sociology. All of those will get covered. So you will find that IITs NLUs, IIMs, they are, while specializing in the specific areas at the postgraduate level, at the undergraduate level, all of them are going to have liberal arts as a course. They're likely to have courses constructed very similar to what you see at University of California, Berkeley, or Austin, Texas, any of those universities where you would have undergraduate programs where there are some core courses, there are some electives, and students can collect it as they go along, and they get a BS or a BA or a BTech degree depending upon the combinations that they choose. It's a very important factor. The entrances to this will be through either JEE or NEET or CUET or CLAT or CAT and so on. Okay. Number 2, global universities will find their place in India. They will build their foundations here, they will build their campuses here, and you will find that by 2025 there are going to be at least 25 universities, and already Gujarat, Gift City, has begun to get invitations, and the foundation work has already started for many universities. Why would this happen? For 2 reasons. One, India has become a proven place for talent, for youngsters, where education is culturally valued. And number 2, where the benefits of lower cost or a higher price performance delivery can happen. You know, if you travel to eastern part of Asia, you speak with people in Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Middle East, Africa, there are people who are very categorical that Indian education offers a similar quality at 1/5 or the 1/7 the price. This is going to play out in a very big way over the next 3 to 5 years. Twinning programs have now been allowed. It's been announced by UGC, as you know. So within the next 24 to 48 months, you're going to see over 250 top Indian universities, colleges, institutions offering twinning program with a leading university globally. What would that mean? It would mean that a student might take admission in a college or university in India, and he would go there to spend 2 semesters or 4 semesters, or a student there would come for an exposure to the Asian subcontinent, the South Asian subcontinent, or Asia as a whole, for learning and on-the-ground experience. This already is underway if you're not aware of it. Let me now come to cover a few points on the EdTech industry itself. You know, the euphoria of heavy funding, massive funding-led aggregation of top line, all of those have happened. Saying that the funding winter is here would not be an exaggeration. So in the EdTech space, the new demand at the board level, at the investor level, is now fairly aligned with what is a sustainable model for any company, which is profitability and growth have to go hand in hand. You cannot kick the can of profitability down the road by saying that let me muscle up, let me accumulate top line, and the profitability can come downstream a couple of years down the line. Because unless you achieve unit economics while you're building the business at its early infancy stage, you will never know what are the right levers to press for growth. And that realization has come upon all the investors, most of the boards, and that's the place where CL Educate is very beautifully positioned. We have gone through our challenging periods, we have come out of it, and we are hopefully looking at a good, solid road over the next 3 to 5 years. Consolidations are underway at the industry level. Okay, a Baiju acquiring Akash is actually an illustration of 2 things. One, the point I just mentioned, that you need to have profitable units, along with another reality post-COVID, where the earlier assertion has been deserted that everything will go online. No. Customer doesn't buy in our business, customer doesn't buy a product online or offline. he buys a program for the final outcome. Do you have the ability to send me or help my child to get into an IIT or a Sri Ram College of Commerce or an IIM or National Law School, Bangalore? And whether it is online or offline is incidental, and it adds to the convenience and learning preference of the consumer or the student. So omni-channel was always there, omni-channel continues to be here. The good thing COVID has done is a lot of consumer behaviors have been accelerated, and that has forced service providers to either adapt or be left high and dry during COVID. Most people face challenges, business has shrunk, as you know, but consolidations and omni-channel play are here, and this will play out over the next 24 to 36 months. The interesting thing here I must mention about the education edtech business or the coaching business is that there have always been students or learners who, for reasons of their convenience, have wanted a online only because of their constraints. He's in a city or working where the services are not available, hence he takes online, or the travel is too painful and he thinks he can manage most of it on his own, but he needs an online support. That is one variety. At the same time, there are significant percentage of students or parents at the undergrad student levels where a face-to-face or an in-center learning is also bringing in certain other benefits such as mentoring, inspiration, or even at a very basic level, the discipline of attending sessions thrice a week or 2 times a week. And that will continue. The choice of customer will be supreme, and a service provider has to respond to that in the best way possible. Having covered a little bit about the industry trends of EdTech, I'll spend a couple of minutes on the MarTech, which is relevant for our Keystone, before I get into the inside-out story. Keystone, the events and digital marketing platform for the corporates, B2B business, also experienced the COVID impact. Implosion of numbers happened. However, the team responded beautifully with what was playing out in the external environment. That is, the events went virtual. And Keystone responded to that beautifully, launched their own virtual platform. Now, post-COVID, the physical events is back. The future is going to be a hybrid on the event side, and the virtual events along with the offline events have now become a hybrid play for most companies, and Keystone is responding to that beautifully. The other thing at a industry level that's happening for the marketing business is the introduction or the adoption of metaverse as a new universe. The shifts from 2D to 3D is underway. Websites will gradually give place to the 3D experience that every brand or a company should give to its customers. So with the Keystone Metaverse Wasmos platform, Keystone is ready for that. Let's just spend a couple of minutes on the size of this market. It's very huge, and in that great opportunity, Keystone is just about a proven startup if you ask me, but it's got a great potential. The metaverse transactions by 2030 are estimated to be as high as $2.5 trillion. It sounds unbelievable, but this is a McKinsey report. And much before the transactions becoming a reality, you becoming a citizen of a metaverse world is the first step that most corporates have to take. If we roll back to the 2000 era, when the .com happened and the www came into existence, you and I as brands and companies, we crossed over saying that, do I need a www? To saying that that's a basic criteria. It is as simple as having your business card. It's a business card in the .com world, in the internet world for your company. That's what is underway into the metaverse world, and every brand in 3 years' time will have a metaverse presence, meta presence, whether you're in fashion or banking or IT or automobile, you would have done that. And there are about 10 or 12 companies globally which are doing this. Large IT players also are creating the teams that will do the virtual reality, metaverse, 3D play as a service to the large clients. So Keystone in some ways is a player there. It has got its own opportunity and path that we will talk about. Let me move forward and spend some time now on the inside out execution plan. And I'll again take this in two subparts. First is EdTech career launcher, then I will come to Keystone, the MarTech arm of ours. You know, the first part that always comes to me in an inside out journey is the core of it, how strong it is of the organization. CL Educate went through a fairly challenging period, if you ask me, and all of you are aware of it, where our diversification into mainstream education as K-12 or business school or vocational, those did not pay off. And as I speak here today, we have put all of those behind, come out of it, and then there is an execution path that we are on. But it is very important for all of us to be very mindful of the learnings from those. And one of the learnings is that we could withstand those headwinds, those challenges, because the core of the organization was rock solid. In an entrepreneurial journey, as you know, and pardon me for harping a little bit on this, but entrepreneurial journey is not all about successes. Actually, it is a lot about failures and the ability of the core founding team and the entire organization to deal with challenges, to deal with outcomes that are adverse for your health. Our investments had to be recouped. We had to pivot the ship. In the meantime, we went IPO in a very mindful way because that's what this was built for. And the one thing that helped CL Educate do very well is on the basis of our core values and core purpose. That's the first inside out I would bring our attention to. RUHI, which stands for risk-taking, openness, ownership, honesty to customers, and innovation. These are the 5 values of Career Launcher. And as we know, if you go back and study Built to Last or any of those management conceptual books that helps us build businesses, the only unchanging part of a company are her core purposes and core values. Everything else changes, everything else must change. Strategies, products, markets, people, tactics, campaigns, positioning, everything must change to a changing environment. But the core is the only thing that remains constant and eternal. CL, the first inside out I would want all of you to know is that at the core, I have a great amount of belief and conviction in what we bring to the table in terms of attitude, perspective, competencies, skills to be successful in a constantly changing environment. Let me pick the EdTech inside out briefly. Both businesses at CL are going to be asset light, scalable, the world as a potential market in the long perspective, and some of those are already playing out right now. And lastly, knowledge-centric, which is one of our core competencies. So innovation-led, asset-light, scalable, and global. This will form a very important part of choices that we make. Do we make an investment here or there? It will have to measure up to these 4 important filters. In EdTech, partner-driven, omni-channel is going to be an important part of our strategy. We have spoken about going to 500 centers in 3 years. That story is under execution. Currently, we are in about 165 locations, and that's what we want to grow 3x with a continuous focus and unrelenting focus on growth in distribution, growth in revenues, and growth in profits. From a financial metrics perspective, other than growth in revenues and PAT, we pay a lot of attention and unforgivingly to what is the free cash that we generate on a year-on-year basis, and where are we headed in terms of our ROE, ROCE, and ROIC. You know that we have become a zero debt company conceptually, and in the last 3 years, despite COVID, we've added 75 crores of cash, free cash, on a cumulative basis. So you could assume last year we added about 27 crores of cash, free cash, to our reserves. Continuing on the tech side, in management and law and IPM, there is one particular execution plan which is in law and IPM. Our task is to grow the market. A country of our size, the law prep takers cannot be 60-70,000. It can grow 2.5x, and as it grows and we have a lion's share of that market, our business will grow automatically. In MBA, as you know, there are some consolidations that are happening, that have happened. In there, our goal is how do we get from mid-30s market share to 45% or 50%. That can also give us additional pricing power. Physical touch points, I mentioned to you 500. The important growth driver organically for the next 3 to 5 years is going to be CUET. It's now being taken by over 150 colleges and universities. This is going to grow 5x. This is likely to be the Gaokao moment for India. Gaokao is the similar exam. The compatriot of CUET in China is Gaokao, taken by 1.2 crore students. So Indian CUET, in our estimation, will get to 75 lakhs. Whether it takes 3 years or 5 years is something that we will see as time plays out. But our belief is that it's going to be the second largest, if not the largest, entrance examination anywhere in the world. There is also a possibility of CUET as an exam competing with SAT for a couple of reasons. You know, LSAT had to launch LSAT India version because of the pricing that you need to do for India. Similarly, those universities that are struggling to attract students from India, they're simply going to say that we're going to accept the Indian entrance exam scores. Whether it is CAT or CLAT or CUET, you will find that as Indian diplomacy, Indian economy is gaining traction, is gaining respect globally, this is going to happen. And I'm not saying something only into the future. As we speak today, over 25 reputed, globally ranked business schools, they accept CAT scores along with GMAT scores. So you could submit either of the two scores for your admissions into these globally ranked business schools. That's likely to happen for a whole lot of undergrad programs. That's the place where CL wants to emerge as a leader in test preparation for CUET with a 1 year, 2 year and a crash program, and also helping the parents and the students in the tough and tricky part of admissions consulting. So that's going to be one big growth driver for us in the immediate 1 to 3 year period. While that is happening, there is another very important trend globally that you and I must be very carefully logged into, which is the student global mobility. As we speak, there are over 6 million students who are studying their undergrad or postgrad programs in their non-native country. Which means you could be born in India and studying in US, your undergrad or a postgrad program, or you could be born in Nigeria and studying in UK. You could be born in Indonesia and studying in France. This is what is categorized as a global student mobility market. A subset of that we are currently focused on is students from India going abroad or students from abroad coming to India through a program that the government of India is nurturing called the Study in India program. So the second growth driver that CL is looking at, and I would still say this is at an incubation stage for Career Launcher. This is a market, this is an opportunity that can fuel our growth for the next 3 to 7 years. Currently, we are focused on India to India student mobility that gives over 10 crores of business for us, where institutions are clients for us as well as the students are clients for us. While this is a practice that has been there for the last 8-9 years, the second practice that is getting incubated is working with overseas universities to send Indian students there and working with Indian universities to get international students to India. That's the phase 2 of our student mobility program that will keep us busy. We need to put our heads down and execute this for the next 24 to 36 months. Master this into a scalable, packaged, almost like a SaaS plus product that we can then take to appoint partners in different countries in the world. Currently, we are focused on part 1 and part 2, which is India to India admissions. Second, India to abroad, a couple of countries we are focusing, and abroad to India, a couple of countries we are focusing. We will share more of that with you as we get past some more execution milestones so that we are focused on the nuts and bolts and outcomes and not doing some kite flying. I'll come to now the growth strategies, our bets on the Keystone side, which is a MarTech platform of ours. As I've mentioned, hybrid is back. Events are now happening as a mix of online plus offline. Keystone has gained a lot of experience in online events and it's been a veteran of the offline events. You know, the BTL, below the line budgets of any corporate is about 35% of their marketing wallet. And Keystone, with its extremely impressive corporate client list of over 220, is very well positioned to build on this in the post-COVID era. As I've mentioned earlier, the business transitions as it is happening from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, Keystone with her virtual events platform and the metaverse platform that has been built, it is currently focused on building a profitable client list by selling these to those customers, to those business enterprises, corporations who are wanting to experiment or create their citizenship, their presence in the virtual world for creating their storefronts, experience centers for a fashion brand or an automobile brand or a banking institution and so on. That will be the focus. So the hybrid BTL, which is a mix of events and digital marketing and virtual metaverse platforms, are the two focus areas as far as Keystone is concerned. And we believe that in this market, even if we have a moderate to good success, it can help Keystone to triple her size over the next 2 to 3 years. Geography wise, other than India, APAC is an area of focus, and North America is an area where Keystone is experimenting with a small team and trying to build the initial wins of customer acquisition. And as you're aware, since the engineering, design, backend, R&D, sales, everything is based out of India with centers in Delhi and Bangalore, Keystone has the benefit of the cost arbitrage for the global clients that they can build for their business. As I come to the conclusion of this particular address, I would like to mention a couple of things. CL Educate is a house of actually two distinct businesses, as you and I can make out. There is an EdTech business under the brand name Career Launcher, and there is a MarTech business under the brand name Keystone. And this growth has been organic by way of various pivots, environmental changes, and so on. But we are mindful that Keystone is an extremely value enabling. It's a very valuable asset embedded in CL Educate, and it could have its own path at some point in time. We are totally committed as the founders and shareholders and board members of CL Educate that these two entities need their own path, their own bandwidth, their own management teams to chase a very different sets of aspirations. And that's the good thing that we have done over the last many years at CL Educate, that we've invested in people by taking youngsters from campuses for the last 20 years. The teams that run Keystone and Career Launcher are absolutely distinct, and they work with great amount of autonomy, with just a couple of us at the board playing the role of synthesizing or any benefits that we can bring upon to bear on the success of the two stories. That will continue. The succession planning or the transition planning at CL Educate is very well in place. Our next level of team comprises people who are from the best of institutions with excellent corporate backgrounds, and they're running the day-to-day businesses and reporting into the boards or executive board members. At some point in time, we do not rule out, perhaps we will actively seek ways of unlocking this value that could take any of the forms that you can imagine, whether it is the demerger of the entity into two entities, or a strategic stake that can be given to some large player on the Keystone marketing side, and Career Launcher continues in the EdTech business. So these are all possibilities, and we will play with a view of 5 to 10 years without losing sight of the core deliverable for two important clients for us, or stakeholders for us. One, our customer, which is a student here or a corporate there. Their delight, their happiness, their word of mouth is sacrosanct and most valuable for us. And second are you as the CL Educate shareholders. And we as promoters, we hold significant part of it, and we are extremely mindful and disciplined about helping CL Educate seek her place, the rightful place, as India emerges as a $5 trillion economy and more, and EdTech and MarTech listed companies of an appropriate size that reflects that this is a leadership status in EdTech space. And come to think of it, that in a $3 trillion economy today, we do not yet have a $1 billion market cap EdTech company. This anomaly will get corrected over the next 3 to 5 years, and when that happens, I would like to believe that we as CL Educate is a very worthy candidate in that race. With those, I would like to conclude my address with a small couplet which talks about the urgency of today. While I've spoken about next 25 years, next 5 years, we are very mindful of this, which says, वो कौम नहीं लायक हंगामा फरदा जिस कौम के तकदीर में इमरोज नहीं है. That community or that nation doesn't deserve an exciting tomorrow if it doesn't value its today. So it's great to have a great vision, it's great to have perspective, long-term plan. However, the most important thing that we need to value is today and this moment. So what it needs for us and what we are committing ourselves to is the resilience and the endurance to be alive, kicking, successful in the next 25-year period, which coincides with the Amrit Kal of India as an independent nation. However, we need to have the velocity, the sprinting power of a sprinter at the same time. So, endurance with speed that is sustainable actually is a duality any entrepreneurial organization that is successful would have demonstrated over the last 25, 50, 100 years if you look at any successful company that has lived for more than one generation. We hope we are one among them. Thank you very much for being here. I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of all of us to you and ask you to stay committed to India EdTech story, and CL Educate hopefully is a good candidate. If you bet on India, if you bet on Indian education, then you could bet on us. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.